So now we're recording our next lesson assignment in computer art, and what we are going to be creating is a simple kind of flat landscape like the one we are looking at. In order to get started with this, we are going to create a new blank file, and the size I'd like us to use for this is 8 by 11, and we're going to create this at a resolution of 300 so that it is nice and sharp, especially when zoomed in up close. Background white, RGB color is all good. We will say OK. I actually believe that I must have had that on pixels because that is very small. So as we can see here, I want to make this 11 inches and the height 8 inches and resolution 300. Okay, so now that looks a little bit better. So if I zoom out, now I have the start of my scene. So what I want to start by is painting my background a light color. So that is going to kind of set the tone for your entire piece, really. What I'm going to go with for this one, maybe I'll do this one kind of like tones of purples, just so that it's a little bit different from my last animation. So like I was saying, we're going to start with something really light for the background. You can fill your background color with that color. We'll go ahead and create a new layer. With the tool we're mainly going to be using is our regular lasso tool. And what we want to start by is creating a foreground layer. And what we're going to do is kind of just make a kind of like a jagged line that goes across, kind of dips down in the middle, and then back up on the edges. You want to make sure you go all the way around and then bring this back to the start so that your selection goes all the way to the edges of your scene. So now what I'm going to do is we are going to fill this layer in. I'm going to make this kind of a dark purplish color here for the front, because we are going to kind of be pretending that the light is coming from the back of the scene. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and deselect, Window D, create a new layer, and then pull this layer down behind this foreground layer. So this foreground is in the front. So this one is going to be on top, layer 1, and we're going to keep working downwards. I'm going to go ahead again and start with another kind of lasso line. It kind of dips down in the middle, maybe gets a little close to that one, and then dips up on the edges. Again, goes all the way around. Actually, not as important with this second one that you get all the way down because you're not actually going to see that bottom sliver of the page. So what I'm going to do now is go up a little bit lighter. You can see the color comparison here. It's a little bit lighter. I'm going ahead and press K to get my paint bucket, or grab the paint bucket, and now you can see I have a second layer back here, and you can't tell that that fill didn't quite reach the bottom because it's actually behind the foreground layer. We're going to do this process twice or 3 times more. So I'm going to go ahead again and press L for my lasso, or you select it from the sidebar. Again, I'm going to kind of start up high, come down low, get really close to the edge there. And the mistake I made this time was I did not go around the bottom edges. So I'm going to do that line one more time. Again, go down, get really low towards the center, and then go up on the edges, and again go down, around, and up. And now this selection, it's already behind those 2 layers. I'm going to go up a little bit further. See that it's a little bit lighter comparison to the last color that I had. Press K to get my paint bucket and fill that in behind it. Alright, we're going to do one more of these. So I'm going to take my lasso one more time. I'm going to start kind of close to this one here, and again get close in the middle and kind of pick it up on the outer edges. Oops, and I made the same mistake twice, and so do this one again, going really close down towards the middle, and then going around the edges. Now there's no really precise way that this has to be done. As long as you can see the different layers in your piece, I'm going to have to add a new layer and pull it down behind layer 3. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4 background. Again, I'm going to take another color that's a little bit lighter. And I don't want it to be too close to my background color because then it might blend in. I'm going to press K to get to the paint bucket, and it looks good. It still see the difference between the sky and that newest layer that I added in. Okay, so next what I'd like to do is I'm going to add in another layer, but this one's going to be kind of big. There's going to be this mountain that goes through the background, and that's kind of what I'm going to add on this fifth layer now. So I'm going to start by kind of going up high for kind of like a mountain, and then go up a little higher for this next one, and then maybe one more, and then kind of let this sort of trail off. Again, made this mistake of not going all the way down and around. So I'm going to go again. And all the way around the bottom of your piece, holding your mouse that whole time, right? Have to hold down your mouse that whole time. What I'm going to take for this next color, I'm actually going to kind of move over a little bit more into these kind of like brighter colors as you get further toward the right of your scene. Get brighter colors, and I'll take this and fill it in like so. I think that that color works all right, although I do want it a little bit duller than that. So maybe I'll go with something like this. Yeah, that seems good. So where I'm at now is that I want to actually start adding some more depth to this image. So you can see it has good layers going back, but what I want to do in order to create a little more realistic kind of appearance here is I'm going to add some highlights onto this mountain. So I'm going to take my lasso tool and draw a couple of shapes kind of on the side of this mountain here. If I have add to selection selected, I could draw all these shapes on the different mountains, and then fill them in all at the same time. So here I'm going to kind of go along that edge and add that, and then on this mountain here, go there and add that. So what I'm going to do is take a color that's much lighter, and I'm going to take my paint bucket and fill all of those in. So when I deselect, it kind of gives the illusion that that's kind of like a highlighted area on the mountains, and I think that looks pretty good. So next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add some trees to our scene. So we'll take our custom shape tool, and if we go to our custom shape tool menu, on the side here we should see foliage and trees as one of our options. If we take that, you've got a few different tree shapes to choose from. I think for this particular one, I'm going to try out kind of this first tree one. I think the last one I did this tree 4, but really any of the trees can be up to you, which ones you'd like to use. So I've got this one. What I'm going to do is use my eyedropper tool. You can press I to get to the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to match it to the colors of the layer that I'm drawing them on. So if I'm drawing them on this first layer, what I want to do is press the eyedropper tool, select that color, go back to my custom shape tool, and draw some of these trees on this first layer. Now, I think it's important to kind of make them overlap a little bit. It creates a little more realistic of a feel to this. So I'm going to add a couple more. A little bit of variety in the size makes things appear realistic too. Okay, didn't realize that it went down below my layers that time. Let's see. This one is in the right spot, so that is pretty good there. I'll make maybe a couple bigger ones on this side to kind of balance things out. And then what I'm going to do is continue this process on the other layers right behind it. So I'm going to go to this layer 2, again press the eyedropper tool, click on this color, and take my custom shape tool again and add some more trees behind this layer here that are going to be a little bit further in the distance. Alright, so now we have some more trees going through there. Again, I'm going to go to layer 3 now. So that would be this little slice here. I'm going to press I to get my eyedropper tool, click on that third layer, go back to my custom shape tool, and these should really be getting smaller as they go back in the distance. So I'm going to shrink this one down and say OK. Again, going back to my custom shape tool, and the rules of perspective tell us that these trees, like I mentioned, should be getting smaller as they get further away from us. So that's why I'm making these trees here on the smaller side as they get further back. Adding some on that layer there, and that looks pretty good. So where I'd like to go next is adding kind of a finishing touch to this. What I do kind of not like is the top of this mountain here actually. So looking at it again, I'm going to take my brush tool and I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger. I'm going to make sure it's a hard-edged brush. I'm going to go to my default brushes. We choose this 19 here. Yep, it has a hard edge, so that is good. I want to zoom in. I'm going to take that brush tool and I'm just going to kind of brush an additional bit on top of this tree, on top of the mountain, although I'm not on the right layer. I'm going to go ahead and just add that little bit to the top. There we go. I'm also going to extend this kind of highlight up a little bit further towards the top too, just to make that a little more accurate. And actually maybe just kind of brush over a little bit of the way this shadow goes over. I think it was a little bit too wide. So these minor kind of fixes here, things you can do to go back and kind of adjust your shadows. I think I might have gone too far there, so I'm just going to bring that back. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom back out to see what I have, and so here is what we've got. And like I was saying lastly, is we are going to add a new layer right above our background layer. So, so total you should have some shapes in about 6 layers. What we're going to do lastly, like I said, is add some clouds to this layer that's right above the background layer. And what we can do to make sure that we have some depth in this picture is make their clouds kind of go behind these mountains. Again, if you have the Add to Selection option clicked, you can just kind of make all your clouds drawn. I like to draw clouds kind of like thin sort of shapes rather than big kind of like clumpy shapes, and make a couple go maybe off the side here, and maybe one more around the top here. And what I'm going to do is go to my color picker, choose a color that's pretty close to white, press K for my fill bucket, and fill these in. Not quite white enough. I think I'm going to go a little bit further towards white. Fill them in again. And that should do it. So here you have kind of a finished example of a flat landscape that you can create in Photoshop Elements.